The fluorescent lights of the Minneapolis Police Department's 3rd Precinct buzzed overhead as Marcus Bennett sat in the cold metal chair, his work boots still covered in sawdust from the construction site. His calloused hands trembled slightly as he pressed them against the interrogation table, the weight of the situation crushing down on his shoulders like the Minnesota winter outside. Across from him sat Officer Derek Paulson, a veteran cop with 20 years on the force and eyes that had seen too many lies. Next to Paulson was Officer Jennifer Hayes, younger, more idealistic, her notepad ready to document everything. Between them stood the woman who had turned Marcus's world upside down in less than an hour, Rebecca Thornton, her mascara-streaked face the picture of distress, her designer handbag clutched to her chest like a shield. "Mr. Bennett," Officer Paulson began, his voice carrying the authority of someone used to commanding rooms. "Ms. Thornton here claims that you struck her vehicle in the parking lot of Riverside Shopping Center approximately 40 minutes ago, then fled the scene. That's a hit and run, sir. That's a criminal offense." Marcus felt his throat tighten. Through the small window of the interrogation room, he could see the waiting area where his 7-year-old daughter, Emma, sat with a female officer, her small frame wrapped in her purple winter coat, her favorite stuffed rabbit clutched in her arms. She didn't understand why they were at the police station. She didn't understand why her daddy looked so scared. "Officer, I didn't hit anyone's car," Marcus said, his voice steady despite the panic rising in his chest. "I was at that shopping center, yes, but I parked, went into the hardware store for exactly 12 minutes to pick up supplies for tomorrow's job, and then we left. I didn't hit anything." Rebecca Thornton let out a theatrical sob. "That's not true. I saw him. I watched his truck, that blue Ford F-150, back right into my BMW. He looked directly at me, and then he just drove away, like my car didn't matter, like I didn't matter." Officer Hayes wrote something down, her expression sympathetic toward Rebecca. "Ma'am, did you get the license plate number?" "I did." Rebecca pulled out her phone with shaking hands. "I took a picture of his truck as he was leaving. See, there's the license plate, clear as day. Minnesota plates, XJK7843. Marcus felt sick. That was his license plate. That was his truck. But he hadn't hit anyone. Officer Paulson studied the photo, then looked at Marcus with the expression of a man who'd already made up his mind. "Mr. Bennett, your truck was in that parking lot. The timeline matches. Miss Thornton has photographic evidence. She has a witness. Her friend who was with her saw the whole thing through the store window. But I didn't. There's damage to Ms. Thornton's vehicle consistent with being struck by a truck at bumper height," Paulson continued, cutting him off. "The paint transfer is blue, matching your vehicle. You're a single father, I understand. You've got a daughter to think about. This would be a lot easier if you just admit what happened. Maybe you were distracted, maybe you didn't realize." "I'm not admitting to something I didn't do," Marcus interrupted, his voice rising for the first time. "I've worked every day for the last 3 years to build a life for my daughter after her mother walked out. I work construction. I pay my bills. I follow every rule because I can't afford not to. I didn't hit her car." Rebecca's voice grew louder, more insistent. "He's lying. Why would I make this up? Look at my car. The damage is real. The repair estimate is $3,000. $3,000. Officer Hayes leaned forward, her voice softer but no less serious. "Mr. Bennett, I have a daughter too. I understand you're trying to protect her from this situation, but lying isn't going to help. The evidence is pretty clear here." Marcus looked at each of them, feeling the walls closing in. He'd been a construction foreman for 8 years. He'd built homes, commercial buildings and bridges. He'd calculated load-bearing weights and structural integrity. He'd never been arrested, never been in trouble with the law. And now, because of a woman he'd never met, he was being accused of a crime he didn't commit. "Officer Paulson," Marcus said, forcing himself to slow down to think. "Before you charge me with anything, before you write this up as a hit and run, I need you to listen to something. There's one detail everyone is missing. One detail that proves she's lying." Officer Paulson leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms. "I'm listening, Mr. Bennett. But it better be good, because right now the evidence says otherwise." Marcus took a deep breath, glancing again through the window at Emma, who was now drawing on a piece of paper the female officer had given her. Everything he'd built, everything he'd worked for, came down to this moment. He had to make them understand. "The detail you're missing," Marcus began, his voice steady now, "is something you can verify in less than 5 minutes. Something that proves I couldn't have hit her car, no matter what she says she saw." The room fell silent. Officer Hayes paused her writing. Rebecca's sobbing stopped abruptly. Officer Paulson uncrossed his arms and leaned forward. "What detail?" Paulson asked. Marcus met his eyes. "My truck has been in the shop for the last 2 days getting the transmission repaired. The truck you see in that photo, with my license plates. I haven't driven it since Monday morning." The interrogation room seemed to shrink as Marcus's words hung in the air. Officer Paulson's expression shifted from certainty to confusion, while Officer Hayes immediately flipped back through her notes. Rebecca Thornton's face, which had been the portrait of victimhood moments before, now showed something else, a flicker of panic quickly masked by renewed indignation. "That's impossible," Rebecca protested, her voice rising an octave. "I saw you. I saw your truck. Are you saying I'm somehow mistaken about what I witnessed with my own eyes?" Marcus kept his gaze steady on Officer Paulson. "I'm saying you can call Gary's Auto Repair on Lake Street right now. Talk to Gary Edmonds, the owner. He'll tell you my truck's been there since Monday afternoon. The transmission was slipping badly. I couldn't even make it through 3rd gear. He said it would take until Thursday to get the parts and complete the repair." Officer Paulson pulled out his phone, but his eyes narrowed with skepticism. "If your truck's in the shop, Mr. Bennett, how did you get to that shopping center today? How did you get here to this station?" "I borrowed my co-worker's truck," Marcus explained, reaching slowly for his wallet. The officers tensed, hands moving instinctively toward their belts, but Marcus moved deliberately, pulling out a business card and a handwritten note. "Carlos Martinez. He's the site supervisor on the Riverside Heights project where I'm working. He let me borrow his truck because I needed to pick up materials for tomorrow's work. His number is on this card. The note is his insurance information he gave me in case something happened while I was driving it." Officer Hayes took the card, examining it. "What kind of truck does Carlos drive?" "A 2019 Toyota Tacoma. Silver, not blue, not a Ford F-150. The silence that followed was broken only by Officer Paulson's fingers dialing on his phone. He put it on speaker. After 3 rings, a rough voice answered. "Gary's Auto Repair. This is Gary." "Mr. Edmonds, this is Officer Derek Paulson with the Minneapolis Police Department. I need to verify some information about a vehicle you're currently servicing. A blue Ford F-150 registered to Marcus Bennett." There was a pause, the sound of papers shuffling. "Yeah, I got Marcus's truck here. Transmission rebuild, why? Marcus in some kind of trouble. Can you confirm when the vehicle was brought in and its current status?" "Let me pull up the work order. Here it is. He dropped it off Monday around 3 p.m. Said it was barely making it here. We've got it up on the lift right now. Transmission's completely torn down. Parts came in this morning. We're hoping to have it ready by tomorrow afternoon, but no earlier. That truck hasn't moved from my shop since Monday, officer." "I can guarantee that." Rebecca's face had gone pale. He could have picked it up for an hour, brought it back." "Ms. Thornton," Gary's voice crackled through the speaker, "I don't know what's going on there, but that truck's transmission is literally in pieces on my workbench. It couldn't move if someone wanted it to. Haven't even started reassembling it yet." Officer Paulson ended the call and looked at Marcus with new eyes. "Officer Hayes, pull up the photo, Ms." Thornton provided, the one with the license plate. Hayes brought it up on her tablet, enlarging it. The image showed a blue Ford F-150 in a parking lot, license plate clearly visible, XJK 7843. The truck appeared to be in motion, backing up. There was a timestamp. Today's date, 2:47 p.m. "Mr. Bennett," Officer Paulson said slowly, "this photo clearly shows your truck, your plates. Today. How do you explain that?" Marcus had been thinking about this since the moment Rebecca made her accusation. As a foreman, he'd learned to think through problems systematically, to see what others missed. "Officer, someone has been using my plates. Either they cloned them, or they somehow got access to my actual plates." "That's absurd." Rebecca stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. "You're just making excuses. Next you'll say you have an evil twin." But Officer Hayes was studying the photo more carefully now, zooming in on different sections. "Officer Paulson, look at this. The truck in the photo, it's the right make and model, right color, right plates. But look at the front bumper. There's no damage, no scratches." "So," Rebecca demanded, "Mr. Bennett's truck should have some identifying marks, shouldn't it?" Hayes looked at Marcus. "Any damage, modifications, distinguishing features?" Marcus nodded, feeling hope rise for the first time. "Yeah, I hit a deer last October on Highway 169. Messed up the front right quarter panel and the bumper. Had it fixed, but you can still see where the paint doesn't quite match if you look close. Also, I've got a construction company sticker on the rear window. Bennett & Sons Construction, Building Dreams, since 1987. That was my dad's company. I kept the sticker even though it's just me now." Officer Paulson stood and walked to the window, making a call on his cell phone. "Unit 34, this is Paulson. I need you to go to the parking lot of this precinct. Blue Ford F-150, Minnesota plates XJK7843. Document any damage to the front end and any stickers or identifying marks on the windows. Also, take photos of the truck currently at Gary's Auto Repair on Lake Street. Same plates. I need comparison photos." While they waited, Officer Hayes pulled up the Department of Motor Vehicles records on her computer. "Mr. Bennett, when did you last renew your registration?" "Last month, November." "And your plates? Have you replaced them recently?" "No, ma'am. Same plates I've had for 6 years." Officer Paulson turned back to Rebecca, his demeanor completely changed. "Ms. Thornton, I'm going to need you to sit back down. We have some more questions for you." "I don't understand what's happening here," Rebecca said, but her voice had lost its certainty. "I saw what I saw." "Did you?" Officer Hayes asked quietly. "Because what you saw was apparently a truck that's been immobile in a repair shop for 2 days. That's quite a magic trick." Marcus's phone buzzed. It was a text from Carlos. "Everything okay? Need me to come down there?" Officer Paulson's phone rang. He answered, listened, and his jaw tightened. "Thank you, Unit 34. He ended the call and looked directly at Rebecca. "The truck currently in our parking lot, which is definitely not Mr. Bennett's despite having his plates, has no front-end damage matching what you described. No construction company sticker. And Unit 34 just confirmed that the actual truck at Gary's Auto Repair has both of those features, plus it's clearly been disassembled." "Ms. Thornton," Officer Paulson continued, his voice now carrying an edge, "you want to tell me what's really going on here? Because filing a false police report is a crime. So is insurance fraud." Rebecca's carefully constructed facade began to crack. I saw a blue Ford with those plates." "I swear, you saw a truck with cloned plates," Officer Hayes interrupted. "Question is, did you know they were cloned? Or are you the one who cloned them?" Marcus felt Emma's eyes on him through the window. His daughter had been watching the whole time, not understanding but knowing something was wrong. He'd promised her after her mother left that he would always protect her, always be there, always tell the truth. And here he was, having to prove his innocence for a crime he didn't commit. "Officer Paulson," Marcus said quietly, "I think you need to check if Ms. Thornton's BMW was actually hit at all." The atmosphere in the interrogation room had shifted dramatically. Officer Paulson stood with his arms crossed, studying Rebecca Thornton with the practiced eye of someone who'd interviewed countless suspects. Officer Hayes had opened a new page in her notebook, now writing with a different purpose, documenting a different crime entirely. "Ms. Thornton, I'm going to need the keys to your vehicle," Officer Paulson said, his voice leaving no room for argument. "We're going to have our forensics team take a look at that damage you claim was caused by Mr. Bennett's truck." Rebecca's hands trembled as she reached into her designer handbag. "This is harassment. I'm the victim here. I came to you for help and now you're treating me like a criminal. Keys. Now." She slammed them on the table with enough force to make everyone jump. Officer Paulson picked them up and stepped out, speaking into his radio. Marcus could hear him requesting a forensics unit to examine a black BMW 7 Series in the precinct's parking lot. Officer Hayes leaned forward. "Miss Thornton, let's start from the beginning, and this time I need the truth. Where were you really at 2:47 p.m. today?" "I was at Riverside Shopping Center, just like I said. Except Mr. Bennett wasn't driving his truck. His truck was immobile at a repair shop. So either you saw a different truck with remarkably similar plates, or—" Officer Hayes paused meaningfully. "This entire story is fabricated." Marcus watched Rebecca's face cycle through emotions. Anger, fear, calculation. He'd seen that look before on job sites, when someone was caught cutting corners or lying about completed work. It was the look of someone realizing their plan was falling apart. "I want a lawyer," Rebecca finally said. "That's your right," Officer Paulson said, returning to the room. "But before you do that, you might want to know what we're finding. My forensics team just did a preliminary examination of your BMW. The damage to your rear bumper? It's consistent with being struck by another vehicle, yes, but the paint transfer isn't blue, it's silver, and the height is wrong for an F-150. The impact pattern suggests something lower, like a sedan or a smaller SUV. Rebecca's face went white. Officer Hayes pulled up something on her tablet. "I've been doing some digging while Officer Paulson was outside. Ms. Thornton, you filed an insurance claim 3 days ago for hit-and-run damage to your vehicle. The claim was initially denied because you couldn't provide any information about the other driver. No witnesses, no surveillance footage, nothing. So I got new information," Rebecca said defensively. "I remembered seeing—" "You remembered seeing a truck that wasn't there," Officer Paulson cut her off. "Or did you see Mr. Bennett's truck parked at that shopping center previously, note his license plate, and decide to use him as your scapegoat?" Marcus felt anger rising in his chest. "You were going to frame me for your insurance fraud? Do you have any idea what this could have done to my life? To my daughter's life?" "I didn't think—" Rebecca started. "No, you didn't think," Officer Hayes said sharply. "You didn't think about the single father you'd be destroying. You didn't think about the little girl out there who'd have to visit her dad in jail. You thought about $3,000 and getting your car fixed for free." Officer Paulson's phone buzzed. He read the message and showed it to Officer Hayes, whose expression hardened. "Ms. Thornton, we just pulled surveillance footage from Riverside Shopping Center. Would you like to guess what it shows?" Rebecca said nothing, staring at the table. "It shows Mr. Bennett's borrowed Toyota Tacoma, silver, not blue, arriving at 2:34 p.m. It shows him and his daughter entering the hardware store at 2:36 p.m. It shows them exiting at 2:48 p.m. and leaving the parking lot at 2:51 p.m. At no point does their vehicle come anywhere near your BMW, which incidentally was parked in a completely different section of the lot. The footage also shows," Officer Hayes added, "that your BMW was already damaged when you arrived at 2:15 p.m. We can clearly see the dent in your rear bumper. You came to that parking lot with pre-existing damage, waited around, and when you saw Mr. Bennett, whose truck you'd probably seen at that shopping center before, you decided to frame him." Marcus felt exhaustion wash over him. "Why me? Why choose me?" Rebecca finally looked up, tears streaming down her face, real ones this time, not the theatrical display from earlier. "Because you looked like someone who couldn't afford a lawyer, someone who might just admit to it to make it go away. Because I'm drowning in debt, and my insurance premium is already too high, and I needed that $3,000. She covered her face with her hands. "I didn't think about your daughter." I didn't think about anything except my own problems. I'm sorry." The apology hung in the air, hollow and insufficient. Officer Paulson stood. "Rebecca Thornton, you're under arrest for filing a false police report and attempted insurance fraud. You have the right to remain silent." As he read her rights, Officer Hayes touched Marcus's arm gently. "Mr. Bennett, you're free to go. I apologize for what you went through here. Your quick thinking with the auto shop detail saved you a lot of trouble." Marcus stood on shaky legs. Through the window, he could see Emma had fallen asleep in her chair, her head resting on the table, Rabbit still clutched tight. "Can I ask you something, officer?" "Of course." "How many people would you say don't have that one detail? How many people get accused of something they didn't do and can't prove it?" Officer Hayes met his eyes, and he saw a flicker of something, acknowledgement, perhaps, of an uncomfortable truth. "Too many, Mr. Bennett. Too many." As Rebecca was led away in handcuffs, still crying, Marcus walked into the waiting area and gently shook Emma awake. Her eyes fluttered open, confused and sleepy. "Daddy, can we go home now?" "Yeah, baby, we can go home." Outside, the Minneapolis winter had deepened, snow beginning to fall under the streetlights. Carlos's borrowed truck was still in the visitor parking, waiting for them. Marcus buckled Emma into her car seat, making sure the straps were tight and secure, making sure she was safe. "Daddy, why were we at the police station?" Emma asked as he started the engine. Marcus thought about lying, about protecting her from the ugliness of what had almost happened. But he'd promised himself after her mother left that he would always be honest with her, age-appropriate but honest. "Someone made a mistake," he said carefully. "They thought I did something I didn't do. But we explained what really happened, and now everything's okay. Like when Tommy said I took his crayon, but I didn't." Marcus smiled despite his exhaustion. "Yeah, baby, just like that." As they drove through the snowy streets toward their small duplex in South Minneapolis, Marcus thought about the detail that saved him. If his transmission hadn't failed on Monday, if he'd been driving his actual truck today, if he hadn't borrowed Carlos's vehicle, there would have been no way to prove his innocence. The surveillance footage would have shown his truck, his plates, and no amount of protesting would have mattered against photographic evidence. The thought chilled him more than the Minnesota winter ever could. At home, Marcus carried a sleeping Emma inside, tucked her into bed with her rabbit, and sat at his kitchen table with a cup of coffee he didn't drink. His phone buzzed with a text from Officer Hayes. "Thornton confessed to everything. Your name is completely cleared. The DA wants to commend you for your clear thinking under pressure. Also, we're investigating how many other false reports she might have filed. You may have prevented future victims." Marcus set the phone down and looked at the photo on his refrigerator. Him and Emma at her school science fair, both grinning at the camera. This was what mattered. This was what he'd protected by remembering that one crucial detail. In the morning, he'd pick up his truck from Gary's shop. He'd go to work. He'd help Carlos finish the foundation pour at Riverside Heights. Life would go on, normal and ordinary and precious. But tonight, Marcus Bennett sat in his kitchen and allowed himself to feel the weight of what had almost been lost, and the relief of what one missed detail had saved.